Well, again, happy Sunday, happy 2025, happy New Year. It's so wonderful to be here with each and every one of you to begin this year with Prosper 2025, joy, well being, connection, and abundance. Last month in my sermon, Follow the Stars, I shared something about the time that we're in from an astrological perspective, that we are entering a time of collective awakening. And I said in that sermon that while we welcome this awakening, many of the changes that will take place in our society and in our world will be and will feel life altering. And so I went on to share that in order to fully integrate and embrace the coming changes, which are wonderful, we must be vigilant. We must be vigilant in expanding our emotional and energetic capacity to change. I want to hear that again. We must be vigilant in expanding our emotional and energetic capacity to change. Another word for change is rebirth. We must keep our nervous systems regulated. Yes, yes. We must lean into community. Yes, yes. We must give and receive support. Yes, yes. We must take care of our bodies and our minds. Yes, yes. And so one of the ways that we accomplish these things is by centering joy. And so this is why this is one of the words for Prosper 2025. Now, like love, joy is a word that is widely misunderstood. And for that reason, for many, it seems unattainable or it seems fleeting. And as I was preparing for this message, there was a song that came to my mind. I was born and raised in the DMV, born and raised in Maryland outside of DC. And there was a local gospel artist and pastor, Reverend Joe Jackson, who had a local hit called I Still Have Joy. That song was later heard by a national recording artist, Dorothy Norwood. She recorded it, and I believe others have recorded it since then. But back in the 90s, on local gospel radio in the DC area, this was on all the time. And again, he became sort of a local celebrity within the gospel community. And the chorus of that song is very simple. I still have joy. I still have joy. After all the things I've been through, I still have joy. Still have joy, still have joy. After all the things I've been through, I still have joy. And that song came to my mind because it speaks to something powerful about joy that will help us understand joy. And so what we're going to do is break down many components of what joy is and how joy acts and what joy leads to. So the first thing is, which is rooted in the chorus of this song, joy is unconditional. He said, after all the things I've been through, I still have joy. So that means that the experiences of life did not change joy. The experiences of life do not have to alter joy. See, joy is not dependent on what's going on out there. Joy is dependent on what's going on in there. And where is there? That's your mental and emotional life. Now, I love what Ernest Holmes writes in The Science of Mind. He says that evolution can only follow involution. He goes on to say that the contemplation of spirit, the self-knowingness of God, is what produces involution. So the truth is there's an eternal wellspring of joy within you, and turning to that inner spring is what leads to evolution, is what leads to growth, is what leads to powerful manifestations, the manifestations you want, that leads to constructive manifestations, the manifestations you want, that lead to deliberate creation or manifestations, the things that you want. And the way I like to put it is simply get involved so you can get evolve. Get involved so you can evolve. And so we recognize that joy has nothing to do with what's happening out there. It's unconditional, but it has everything to do with what's going on inside. It has everything to do with what you're involved in that will determine your evolution. And so how do you know that you've evolved and are evolving? It is by your inner and outer expression of love and joy. Why? Because joy is power. Joy is not just some emotion of excitement. Joy is power and powerful. So after the power of love comes the power of joy. We can talk about love, and we have, and we do, and we will. as you have cultivated and understand the power of love, inevitably, what should come forth, spring forth out of you is joy. Now, in Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins, he outlines this very clearly. Now, first he writes, as love becomes more and more unconditional, it begins to be experienced as inner joy. Hear that for a second. As love becomes more and more unconditional. And I want to add here, first, as love of self becomes more and more unconditional. As you really accept the reality that you're worthy, as you really accept the idea that you're divine, that you're sacred, that you're holy, that there's nothing wrong with you, that you are God's good idea, as you continue to accept and deepen your awareness and integrate the reality that you're one with God and one of God. As love becomes more and more unconditional, it begins to be experienced as inner joy. This isn't the sudden joy of a pleasurable turn of events. It is a constant accompaniment to all activities. It's unconditional. Joy arises from within each moment of existence rather than from any other source. Joy is also the level of healing and of spiritually based self-help groups. So it's interesting when we think about this, when we're talking about this vibration of joy, when we understand in the work of Dr. David Hawkins, he calibrates these at a certain level. He gives them a certain number. So that's why he uses the word level. And so we're here at the level of 500 when we're talking about joy. Love, which precedes joy, is the level of 400. And so as you begin to cultivate your understanding of love, and that becomes more unconditional, then you begin to experience inner joy. And it's not something that can be taken away. There's another old song that says, this joy I have, the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Nobody can steal your joy. As I was preparing for this message, I was thinking about something that PY said in her sermon, Take Back Your Keys, right? Nobody can drive you crazy if you don't give them the keys. Right? Nobody can steal your joy if you understand the truth of what joy is. And joy is the level of healing. It is also the level of spiritually based self-help groups. So when we think about the teachings of New Thought, the foundation of New Thought, which starts with healing, by the way, I love to say that all the time. This is where New Thought began. The origins of New Thought are clear. Physical healing is possible and is available to each and every person, right? It's not something that was regulated to special people and definitely not regulated only to some stories we read in the Bible. So joy is a requirement when we think about healing. And joy is power, but also joy is persistent. He goes on and he says, a capacity for enormous patience and the persistence of a positive attitude in the face of prolonged adversity is characteristic of this energy field. The hallmark of this state is compassion. People who have attained this level have a notable effect on others. And so I love that because, again, it echoes the idea and the concepts around I still have joy, right? That Pastor Joe Jackson, Reverend Joe Jackson, he writes, he said, there were times in my life I didn't think I could go on. There were times in my life it felt like trouble wouldn't leave me alone, right? But there was something within him that was keeping him moving forward, that he could say that even in the midst of those unwanted experiences, even in the midst of those troubles, even in the midst of those doubts, even in the midst of those fears, I still have joy. Why? Because joy is unconditional. And joy is then what it is the thing that signals and supports that capacity for enormous patience and persistence in the face of prolonged adversity and is characteristic of this energy field. So this is why it's so important that we can affirm I have joy and I still have joy as we move through this year, right? Now, we're not naive as we are affirming and intending and branding 2025 as Prosper 2025. We know there's some foolishness coming to the White House. We know there's foolishness already happening in government. But we affirm I still have joy because we understand the power of joy. We understand that it's joy that will lead to our patience. It is joy that will lead to our persistence. It is joy that will allow us to maintain a positive attitude even in the midst of prolonged adversity. And then he goes on, if you consider this, joy makes us compassionate. There's something very interesting about people who have been through something, and I'm talking about really been through something, homelessness, who have experienced sometimes unimaginable loss, sometimes through a hurricane or fires, those that have gone through cancer or other diseases, right, and come out on the other side. It's interesting because what I find is that those people, they either walk through life bitter and angry and you don't want to be around them, or they are full of joy. And the full of joy people, I was reminded, that's what I was referring to when I wrote the song Behind It All. You all may know that line where I sing, "Oh, I've walked through the valley and come out whole again." See, that's that full of joy group. And so having been through something, or as Dr. David Hawkins says, faced a prolonged adversity, then you begin to sing and live and embody the reality of I still have joy. I still have joy. After all the things that I've been through, I still have joy. And what he says that because of that, the hallmark of this state is compassion. People who have attained this level have a notable effect on others. And this is why joy is power. Because when you've sure enough been through something and come on the other side of it, walk through the valley and come out whole again, you're not so quick to judge people. You're not so quick to tell people what you think they need to do. You're not so quick to simply think that something is wrong with someone because of the circumstances they may be in, because you've been through something and you realize that the unconditional love that is the thing that helped you move through, that you had to give your own self grace, that you had to be patient with yourself, that you had to be unconditional with yourself and persist in your positive attitude. So you're willing and able, almost in an automatic way, to give that to others. That's what joy does. Joy makes you compassionate. But the title of this sermon series is Prosper 2025. So what does joy have to do with prosperity? Well, Dr. David Hawkins goes on and he reminds us that joy manifests miracles. We read, "The world one sees is illuminated by the exquisite beauty and perfection of creation. Everything happens effortlessly by synchronicity, and the world and everything in it is seen to be an expression of love and divinity. Individual will merges into divine will. A presence is felt whose power facilitates phenomena outside conventional expectations of reality, termed miraculous by the ordinary observer." Now, I love this. Again, just as he said that when we're thinking about joy, and this aligns so perfectly with the principles and understanding and the foundation of new thought, we recognize that it is in this place that then everything happens effortlessly by synchronicity, and the world and everything in it is seen to be an expression of love and divinity. Individual will merges into divine will, and a presence is felt whose power facilitates phenomena that the outside observer would call miraculous. What do we affirm over and over and over again in affirmative prayer? There is one mind, one power, one presence working in all, through all, and as all. There is one life. That life is my life now. That life is your life now. A presence is felt whose power facilitates phenomena that some would call miraculous, but we call it ordinary. We call it natural. And so we recognize it is at that level of joy where you truly begin to demonstrate your consciousness. We hear, and of course, all the time, folks use the word manifest and manifestation. And just recently, I saw something, and I keep seeing it over and over again. The word manifest and manifesting is misunderstood and misused and misapplied. I saw a video recently where a coworker was calling out another colleague because she was scrolling, looking at a website, looking at dresses for an event that she hadn't been invited to. And the young lady that was scrolling, looking at the video, she said, "Oh, I'm manifesting." And I'm like, no, you're not. That's not what it is. You may be acting as if, right? You're using a principle of deliberate creation, but you're not manifesting. Because the truth is, we are always manifesting. Manifestation is simply a demonstration of our consciousness. And we are always demonstrating what's within us. And so that's why manifestation or manifesting is not a separate event. And it's definitely not, which is the way so many people tend to think and talk about it, solely when you're trying to bring about something good that you like or that you want or some special thing. That's manifestation. That's not what it is. It's a demonstration of our consciousness. And so then when we understand that when we're tapped into, rooted and grounded, involved in this reality of joy, then we're going to demonstrate that consciousness. We're going to demonstrate a phenomena that some would call miracles. We're going to demonstrate an effortlessness. We're going to demonstrate synchronicity, and the world and everything in it will seem to be and will feel like an expression of love and divinity. Effortless, synchronicity, love, divinity. He also says individual will merges into divine will. Not my will, but thy will be done. That's a powerful prayer. Thy will be done. I encourage you to pray that prayer for 21 to 30 days, but be ready, right? Because you have to know and live in a surrendered place and understand who and what you're one with, that you walk with God, that you walk with the force behind all force, that you walk with power. And so as you hear that individual will merges with divine will, it may bring to your mind the stages of spiritual consciousness, which we talk about so often here at Celebration Spiritual Center, because as I love to say here at CSC, we're teaching stage 3 and stage 4 living. We're teaching stage 3, which is the through me or vessel stage, which that statement that corresponds to stage 3 is not my will, but thy will be done. Stage 4 is then the as me or oneness stage, which you begin to operate from this place where you are one with God and you don't feel or sense the separation. And so as you can see, this consciousness of joy is what aligns with both of those stages, but specifically with stage 3. And so a new way to think about that is to call this the joy level. So we now recognize that joy is unconditional. Joy is power. Joy is persistent. Joy makes you compassionate. Joy manifests miracles. And finally, joy expands your capacity to love. Dr. David Hawkins writes, one sense of responsibility for others at this level is of a different quality from that shown at the other levels. There's a desire to use one's state of consciousness for the benefit of life itself rather than for particular individuals. This capacity to love many people simultaneously is accompanied by the discovery that the more one loves, the more one can love. Here at CSC, we say something very simple. Love God, love you, love people. Now, when we say love God, I'm not saying love some divine being, love some divinity, worship some being. That's not what love God means. Love God means everything that we've been talking about earlier with this idea of getting involved. Using your daily spiritual practice to tap into the reality of your oneness with God, to tap into the reality of your divinity, to tap into the reality that everything that's happening outside of us is an effect of what's happening collectively inside of us. So we want to tap into that inside place. We want to tap into that place of consciousness from where all things spring up. And so that's what love God is about. That's the getting involved. And then if you get involved, then you start to evolve. And that evolution begins by loving yourself. This is why Dr. David Hawkins says so wonderfully, as love becomes more and more unconditional, and that starts with love of self. You will never be able to love anybody else unconditionally if you can't love yourself. You will never be able to give anyone else grace if you can't given yourself grace yet. You will never be able to give anyone or compassion or be compassionate or be empathetic until you've done that for yourself, right? And so and in doing that for yourself, what you're doing is filling your cup up. And if you continue to do that on a daily basis, unconditionally, with persistence, no matter what, then you have an overflow to love people. And so this is what he's talking about at this joy level. One sense of responsibility for others is of a different quality. There's a desire to use your state of consciousness for the benefit of life itself rather than for particular individuals. This also reminds me of how Maharishi Mahesh Yogi speaks about transcendental meditation. There's a couple things that happen with transcendental meditation. One of the things we know, and it's scientifically proven, is the Maharishi effect. That when a community of meditators come together, cultivating inner peace within themselves, that inner peace actually vibrates out into the community. And so we've seen, there are studies that have shown where the crime rates have been reduced in so-called urban environments, places like Washington, D.C. in the 90s. And the crime rate was measurably reduced during the time and during the span of time that the group of meditators came together over a summer. It's profound. It's amazing. And this is what begins to happen when you're cultivating this inner joy, this inner peace. And so Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, he uses the idea to think about if you were in a pool and the water was still, right? And as soon as you move the water, other people, if they may be in the water as well, we know that the ripples move out away from you and they will meet the folks in the pool. That's what's happening with this inner joy that you cultivate. So we have named this year Prosper 2025. We have set the intention that we are prosperous and we will continue to prosper this year because our prosperity is unconditional. That means it doesn't matter who's in the White House or who's in the government. Hello? Yes, yes. We know we are entering a pivotal moment in human history. We know that we have entered a time of collective awakening. We know that we must take deliberate and intentional care of ourselves and our community. So what are we doing about it? We are centering joy, well-being, connection, and abundance. Now, like prosperity, and as I said earlier, like love, joy is unconditional. We also now know that joy is power. Joy is persistent. Joy makes you compassionate. Joy manifests miracles easily and effortlessly. Joy expands your capacity to love. We know that joy will never be produced outside of us. We know that there is an infinite inner wellspring of joy that we must drink from daily. Spiritual practice, 555. Hello, somebody. We know that when we dare to get involved with the God in us, that same power will evolve and express through us in magnificent and miraculous ways. So today, here in 2025, we sing and affirm these words anew. I still have joy. I still have joy. After all the things I've been through, I still have joy. I still have joy. I still have joy. After all the things I've been through, I still have joy because I know what joy is and I know what joy does and I know how joy works. Let this joy be in you today. Cultivate this joy. Contemplate this joy. Get cozy with this joy and prosper, beautiful soul, prosper. From this place of awareness and to this truth, I simply say, Amen, Ashe, and so it is.